This is like one of these moments you should be proud of. He's worked his way up from an intern to a producer, watching this segment, listening to the segment, and now he's in it. Eric Hanneman, co-hosting with Goss here on 104.5 The Team. It is your debut of Monday Mirages. Now, I'm sure you know the rules, but for those who may be listening for the first time, it's as simple as this. We'll give you a topic in sports. You got to say if it's real, it's got some lasting power, we're going to see it happen, it should be happening, or mirage. It just kind of fades away. People love to have overreaction Monday. Sometimes we got to tell people, it's over, okay? It's not going to happen again. I'll take the lead with you because it's your first time, and I'll set you up with this one.
Let me just say this.
Go ahead.
Mom, I made it.
Real or mirage, LeBron James leading this team to an NBA Finals appearance is his biggest accomplishment of his career. And I'm talking about getting teams to the NBA Finals.
I personally say mirage, and it's because of the fact of the matter is that 07 team is just not talented enough to really match up against this Cavs team. To me, this Cavs team is just a very similar team that they had last year. Obviously, you got the additions of George Hill via the trade deadline, as well as, I believe, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance. So there's a lot of difference, but that's also replacing Kyrie Irving. So Irving outweighs that, but to me, I know he didn't have Glove in most of Game 6 and then at all in Game 7, but it was a very similar team. Kyle Korver, I think, is one of the best three-point shooters of all time. Hot take here or there. I think he, percentage-wise, Steph Curry is a little bit lower than Kyle Korver, just to let you know.
He is, yeah.
But that's just a whole other. That's down a rabbit hole. And then quickly the schedule. Now, I'm not saying that the schedule wasn't necessarily weak in 07, but I would say that this schedule with the Pacers, the Raptors, and the Cavaliers, the best team they played in those, I think, actually, who showed out was the Indiana Pacers. Now that the Celtics still forced that Game 7, but they really weren't as good of a team without Kyrie Irving. And then we didn't really get to see much of Gordon Hayward, but they could have been a lot better. But they still did a good job getting to Game 7. I would say that's a little less impressive for me because of the competition and the least.
With all that being said, mirage from you.
Yes, Mirage.
The most important part, Mirage. That's right. Mirage is the answer. 07, you're right. That was more impressive. I still look at that early Cavalier team. Like the first one he took there, which is 2015. People forget the seasons before that, the Cavaliers were averaging less than 30 wins a season for 4 straight years. So I toss like the 2015 Cavaliers in there. The team that Kevin Love was injured on, I think that was closer to 2016. The first Heat team I won't give as much credit to, although the roster top to bottom was worse.
Right.
So Mirage there. The Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors play tonight. You can hear all the action right here on 104.5. The team Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. Real or Mirage, if Chris Paul plays, the Houston Rockets can beat the Warriors.
Are able to beat the Warriors.
Correct.
They can.
Real or Mirage, if Chris Paul plays, the Rockets can beat the Warriors.
That's real. I mean, we've seen it from perspective, whether it's on the road or at home. They've beaten them both venues so far in this series, 2-1 at home, and so it's another game at Houston, and Houston seems to be playing for a lot. I know that the Astros kind of won for the whole hurricane victims and what last season, but there still seems to be a lot going on, and I think Chris Paul talked about after Game 5 about the shooting that happened there. So they're playing for a lot of the community and being able to be there for their community. And we've seen that happen, like I said, with the Astros of being able to get them over the hump. And we've seen Chris Paul just be a very important part of certain runs in this series. Now, because there was in Game 6 or Game 5, I believe, obviously not Game 6, he didn't play in Game 6. Chris Paul had a moment where he didn't have more than 2 points, but before halftime, he jumped it up to 14 or 15 and gave the Houston Rockets a lead. So Chris Paul, a huge part of the series. We've never seen, I think, a backcourt like this, so it's definitely real.
Real, but you've fallen victim to a Monday Mirage wording. This is the problem with it. I set it up with Game 7. So, yes, 1 through 6, it's real. Game 7 against the Warriors in this team, it's a mirage.
Ooh.
I don't see Golden State losing, even though it's on the road in Houston, even though Chris Paul may be in the lineup. It's not the same Chris Paul we always see. I saw that play at the end of Game 5, and I'm thinking, yelling in my apartment, screaming, get back on D! And then I'm yelling at the Warriors, it's a 4-on-5, go for the rim! Mirage. Game 7, I'm never picking against the Warriors, and I'm not picking against LeBron James. People should be learning their lessons.
Yeah.
The next one here, the New York Yankees, later on, they take on the Houston Astros all throughout. This Astros-Yankees series, real or Mirage, it's important for the 2018 season. This series for the New York Yankees. It's important this series.
It's important this series. But we've already seen them play, 4 games before?
Yeah.
I'll say real, but is there buts in this?
There's real-ish, like the old thing you put on a hot dog on Memorial Day. That's relish.
Right.
Levac likes to bend the rules with realish. Is that where you're leaning here?
I'm leaning towards realish because I definitely hear when people say, it's May. Why do we say the series means a lot? But then I also get this is the last time the Houston Astros and New York Yankees meet to a potential playoff meeting in October. So I think it's real to see how the Yankees are going to hit against pitchers that they have struggled in the playoffs. We saw how they did it in Houston. They were able to win 3 or 4. That's great. Now it's at Yankee Stadium. We know they won all 3 games at Yankee Stadium against Houston last year. But it's still important to see these guys with the extra spin rates of these curveballs.
Oh, don't go down that drone boy and Trevor Bauer.
This rotation might be, I don't know, I don't want to say best of ever, but it's on pace to be one of the best, at least statistically, with Verlander and Cole and even Charlie Morton. The name doesn't really ring, even though it was a huge part of the Game 7 victory last year. The name doesn't necessarily ring. Charlie Morton is really good. So it's real-ish because this is a potential playoff matchup, but it's also still May.
You're getting better at this. The answer was real, but you're starting to figure out how to get this right because the point you brought up there involving the starting pitching, that's what makes a May Memorial Day series in the week of Astros-Yankees important. Because if the Yankee lineup gets shut down by Houston, I know how Yankee fans are going to feel. Dude, we can't touch this pitching. Like, how are we going to beat them in October? Garrett Cole and Verlander and Morton are the guys you laid out there. If they can't hit against them, even though it's a Yankee powerhouse lineup, they got to start looking at the trade deadline and thinking, we just got to figure out who can hit off Houston's pitching. Now, if Houston smashes the ball all over the place against the Yankees pitching or bullpen, that's also going to throw some things up in a loop and wonder. Believe it or not, what happens in this series may dictate what happens in July. Because Brian Cashman's going to look at Houston and say, how can we beat Houston? And that may be the move that they make upcoming towards the trade deadline. The next one here, Real or Mirage, is we play Monday Mirages. You are more excited for the Stanley Cup than the NBA Finals.
You know what? I'm going to say real. The reason why is sometimes we've seen this a lot. Yesterday's game may be the exception instead of the rule. I think
the standard maybe, yeah.
Right. Of a close game in the playoffs. We see a lot of these games, the runs in the NBA are crazy. Sometimes you see the Warriors down 10. Next thing you know, they're up 20. There's so many runs in the NBA, and sometimes these games turn into a fourth quarter of it's not even close. It's not even worth watching. Well, one of the best things to watch, I think, in sports is overtime of hockey. Things get tight. And these teams, who's going to score? It's sudden death. I don't think you can get better than sports in sudden death, and the only one really it is, except for, maybe baseball and obviously football too.
Hockey is still the best, though.
But it's still the best.
Happen, yeah.
And so add the fact that you have an all-time great in Alex Ovechkin getting to his first Stanley Cup ever, and a franchise that's only 1 year old getting to
the Vegas Golden Knights, right?
And so they beat my Sharks, the Vegas Golden Knights. So it maybe be fitting to say, hey, we lost to the Stanley Cup champions 2 years ago in the Pittsburgh Penguins. This year we might also too. So I'd also love to see Marc-Andre Fleury. I think it's the longest amount of years between a guy who started in the Stanley Cup. He's won 2 in the last 2 years, but he never played in the finals. Now Marc-Andre Fleury back in the Stanley Cup. I want to see that. So it's real. I am more excited for the Stanley Cup.
I'm almost going to answer this one backwards. Another way you can think of this is, and if you're sitting as a sports fan wondering, what do you think will be more exciting? So if you think the Stanley Cup, and Eric's kind of hinting at this a bit, if you believe that's going to be more exciting, then you should be more excited for that. Think of it like that. So the answer is real. Even if it's the Warriors or Rockets, maybe 5 games. I would love for LeBron and the Cavaliers to keep it close. I wouldn't believe that because now it gets to the point where it's talent, and we've seen the Warriors take down the Cavaliers in the finals before. This is the Stanley Cup final I wanted. I said this. I told Levac this. I said, if I could draw it up perfectly, I'd want the Golden Knights versus the Predators, but they're both in the West, so I can't get that one.
Right.
So instead, I'll take Capitals, and I'll take Golden Knights. That would be the perfect Stanley Cup for me. Sure enough, Capitals, Golden Knights. No matter what, it's going to be awesome. Somebody's winning a first Stanley Cup, and they're going to be going nuts. I'm going to love it. I got 2 more for you here.
All right.
You're going to enjoy both of these, especially. Real or Mirage? 104.5, the team listeners should go see Solo the movie in theaters.
Man,
could be along the lines. A lot of people. You've seen Solo. Is it worth buying and going and sitting in the theater?
That pause probably didn't get much confidence.
No, it didn't.
But listen, I say it's real. There's many reasons to watch blockbusters in the movie theater, but this one is one that I think that if you're watching it on a smaller screen, I'm not going to give anything away, but there's some of the lighting is dark. So it's nice to have the big screen to be there and to actually be able to see everything and get that lighting. Also, too, it's an awesome movie. If you like a heist movie, this is Han Solo doing, stuff that you really wanted to see Han Solo do, but you really never saw it in the original trilogy. So I say it's real because it's,
Is it good? How about is it good?
It's really good.
Okay.
There's one thing that I think that if you're a fan that you might not necessarily like, if you're a casual fan and all you watch is the movies, there could be something that you might not get. Because my brother came out of there saying, like, I'm not sure I got that part. But overall, he liked it better than Rogue One. That's not saying a lot. But well, no, it is saying a lot because Rogue One's really good. But for him, it's like, I mean, I don't know. He's not the standard for that. But sorry if you're listening, brother. But
no, just nerded out on Star Wars.
Real.
Star Wars nerd. If we let you go, man, we could have let you go for another 5 minutes on Star Wars. Levac gets the same way. I'm going to go Mirage just because I'm not a Star Wars fan, but my boy is in it. Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, Derek Comedy, Troy Barnes. That's my dude. I heard Lando steals the show in the movie. All right, that's all I need to know.
Most definitely. If you're a big Donald Glover fan, it's definitely worth seeing.
He's ruling the world right now.
He is.
We might have to get our intern Brett on this. Brett, you might have to look this up. I'd love to find out in the history of the United States how often one person's been in the #1 movie in the world the same week as having the #1 song. I bet he's one of the few people to ever do that. Because This Is America's the #1 song. So he's got the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 and the #1 movie.
That's crazy.
Last one here. You and I are big fans of this show. Real or Mirage, you thought this past season of CBS's Survivor was a good season. A nice, easy word. Was it a good season?
I think it was a good season. Now, the standard for me isn't, I don't think, especially for people, there's some harsh critics of the show who are big fans. For me, most of the seasons are good. This one in particular, I think is very good. Without giving away anything that happened if you hadn't seen it already or you still chilling on your DVR, I think that the finale really makes it. There's parts of the season that, I think the premiere was great. I mean, because you had a guy just absolutely flame out in that premiere, and it was really fun to watch that. Awesome. There's some pedestrian middle parts of it. I think people say it might have gotten bored and moves were not made. But the finale, I think, makes it. I think they did a really good job with the finale, and Probst is still making that show good.
Real. People, Survivor is still a thing. It didn't stop when all of a sudden, like, the 2000s ended. It's still on television. People are still trying to, maybe not eat rats, but it's still a show. Like, it's a little different.
There's this perception that it's almost like Fear Factor in a way. Maybe one challenge here and there. They haven't done it in a while. This was the first season I think they've done it in 3 or 4 seasons.
It's not like Naked or Afraid. Like, it's a little bit different. It's actually, how Survivor used to be marketed. It's like, who will actually survive? People aren't dying.
And can I also say in this segment, it is real. If you think Survivor is fake, I'm here to defend it. It's real.
Real, the season was good. Real, Survivor's a real show. Real for me as well. Survivor, a little hint of what may have happened. If you like reality TV shows, sometimes you want to see the best players go far. I'll leave it at that. Soon I'll get you into Big Brother, my man. Big Brother.
I've watched a couple.
Oh,
I haven't watched all of it. I might watch 20.
If we're hosted on July 4th together, we might be breaking down some Big Brother. Nice. We're going to be talking to Ray Bradford, who's the author of this fantastic new book. If you're a fan of Hoop Dreams, the movie, I think you're going to be loving Ray's new work. We're going to talk about what he's working on and where you can find it. That's all next. It's Gaz, it's Eric Hanneman on 104.5 The Team.
I'm Roger Weiland from Martin Harding and Mazzotti. And folks, if you're out there or your kids are out there riding bikes, make sure that you're on the right side.